There is a prison that has no walls, no guards, and no locks, yet it holds captive some of the most intelligent, talented, and capable people who have ever lived. You cannot see it, you cannot touch it, and that is precisely what makes it so dangerous. Because the moment you believe you are free from it, you are already standing at the center of its grip. What if I told you that the very thing you trust most, your own mind, is the architect of the cage you cannot escape? Most people believe that failure comes from a lack of talent, a lack of opportunity, or a lack of effort. But the truth is far more unsettling. History is filled with individuals who possessed extraordinary gifts, who had every advantage, every resource, every reason to succeed, and yet they crumbled. They didn't fail because they weren't good enough. They failed because they fell into a trap so subtle, so deeply woven into the fabric of human psychology, that even awareness of it is not always enough to break free. This trap doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with warning signs. It disguises itself as something noble, something admirable, something you would never think to question. And that is exactly how it wins. To understand this trap, you first have to understand something about the human brain that most people never consider. Our minds evolved not to seek truth, but to seek comfort. Thousands of years ago, certainty meant survival. If you knew where the predators were, if you knew which berries were safe, if you believed the world worked in predictable patterns, you lived another day. And so our brains developed an almost addictive relationship with the feeling of being right. Not actually being right, mind you, just the feeling. There is a difference, and that difference has destroyed more careers, more relationships, and more dreams than any external obstacle ever could. Psychologists call it cognitive rigidity. Philosophers have called it 1,000 different names across the centuries. Socrates spoke of it when he said that the wisest man is the one who knows he knows nothing. The Zen masters pointed at it when they spoke of the beginner's mind, the idea that in the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind there are few. Even the ancient Stoics warned against it, reminding us that it is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. Every great tradition of thought, across every culture and every era, has tried to warn humanity about the same invisible enemy. And yet, generation after generation, the most brilliant among us continue to fall. Here is why. When you are intelligent, when you have proven yourself capable, when the world has rewarded you for your ideas, something happens inside your mind that is almost imperceptible. You begin to trust your own thinking not as a tool, but as an identity. Your opinions stop being hypotheses and start becoming extensions of who you are. And from that moment forward, every challenge to your thinking feels not like an intellectual exercise, but like a personal attack. You stop learning, you stop adapting, you stop growing. Not because you chose to, but because your brain has quietly reclassified curiosity as a threat. Think about the people you have known in your own life. Think about the colleague who was undeniably talented, but could never accept feedback. Think about the friend who was so certain of their path that they ignored every sign telling them to change direction. Think about the leader who surrounded themselves only with people who agreed with them, and then wondered why everything collapsed. These are not stupid people. These are often the sharpest people in the room. And that is exactly the point. Their intelligence became the wall that kept the truth from getting in. Have you ever wondered if the same thing might be happening to you right now, in ways you cannot yet see? This is where it gets deeply personal, and I want you to stay with me here, because what I'm about to say may be uncomfortable. Every single one of us carries beliefs that we have never questioned, not because we are lazy, but because those beliefs feel so obviously true that questioning them seems absurd. They are the assumptions we make about what we deserve, about what is possible for us, about who we are at our core. And many of these beliefs were not even chosen by us. They were handed to us in childhood, absorbed through the words of parents, teachers, and a culture that shaped us before we had the capacity to resist. You are walking through life right now with a map that was drawn by someone else, and you are so used to following it that you have forgotten it is even there. Consider this. A child who is told repeatedly that they are not good with numbers grows into an adult who avoids anything involving math, not because they lack the ability, but because a belief was planted so deep that it became invisible. A young person who watches their parents struggle financially absorbs the unspoken message that money is scarce and hard to keep, and then spends their entire adult life unconsciously recreating that scarcity. A brilliant student who is praised only for being smart learns to avoid challenges because failure would mean they are not who everyone says they are. These are not rare cases. These are the stories of almost everyone. And the most painful part is that the people living inside these invisible cages genuinely believe they are making free choices. If this idea has already resonated somewhere inside you, imagine what comes next. Subscribe to this channel so you do not miss this journey, because what we are about to uncover goes even deeper. Now let me offer you a different way of seeing this, because understanding the trap is only the first step. The real question is, what do you do once you see it? And the answer begins with something that sounds deceptively simple, but is one of the hardest things a human being can do. You must learn to hold your own beliefs lightly, not to abandon them, not to become someone with no convictions, but to develop the rare ability to look at your own thoughts the way a scientist looks at a hypothesis, with genuine curiosity about whether it might be wrong. The Japanese concept of Shoshin, beginner's mind, is not just a pleasant philosophy, it is a practical survival strategy for the modern world. The people who thrive in times of change are not the ones who know the most. They are the ones who can unlearn the fastest. Think about every industry that has been disrupted in the last 20 years. The companies that fell were not run by incompetent people. They were run by experts, people who knew their industry so well that they could not imagine it working any other way. Their expertise, the very thing that had brought them success, became the anchor that dragged them under. So how do you cultivate this beginner's mind in a world that rewards certainty and punishes doubt? The first step is to practice what psychologists call intellectual humility. This does not mean thinking less of yourself. It means recognizing that your perspective is always incomplete. Every opinion you hold is based on a limited set of experiences, a particular cultural lens, and a brain that is wired to confirm what it already believes. When you truly internalize this, something remarkable happens. Disagreement stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a gift. Someone who sees the world differently from you is not your enemy. They are a window into a part of reality that you cannot access on your own. The second step is to build what I call a discomfort practice. Deliberately seek out ideas that challenge you. Read books by authors you disagree with. Have conversations with people whose worldview is completely different from yours. Not to argue, not to convert them, but to stretch the boundaries of your own understanding. The mind is like a muscle. If you only use it in one direction, it becomes strong but brittle. It can lift heavy weights, but it cannot bend. And in a world that is constantly shifting, flexibility is worth more than strength. The third step, and perhaps the most powerful, is to redefine your relationship with failure. Most people treat failure as evidence that something is wrong with them, but failure is simply information. It is the universe telling you that your current map does not match the territory. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who fail and then update their map instead of insisting the territory is wrong. Thomas Edison did not succeed because he was smarter than everyone else. He succeeded because he was willing to be wrong more times than anyone else could tolerate. Each failure was not a defeat. It was a data point. And he collected enough data points to eventually find his way to the truth. But here is a secret even more profound that few people ever discover. The deepest version of this trap is not just about beliefs or ideas. It is about identity itself. The most dangerous prison is not believing the wrong thing. It is believing that you are a fixed thing. When you say, I am this kind of person, or I am not the type who does that, you are not describing reality. You are building a wall. You are telling the universe what you will and will not allow yourself to become. And the universe, with its infinite patience, simply respects your limitation and moves on without you. The ancient Greeks had a word, metanoia, which is often translated as repentance, but actually means something far more radical. It means a fundamental transformation of mind, a complete turning around, not just changing what you think, but changing the very structure through which you think. This is what every great spiritual tradition, every great philosophical system, every genuine path of growth has always pointed toward. Not the accumulation of more knowledge, but the dissolution of the walls that prevent you from seeing what is already there. Here is the revelation that ties everything together, and I need you to hear this clearly. The invisible trap that causes the brilliant to fail is not ignorance. It is the illusion of knowledge. It is the moment when understanding crystallizes into certainty, when the living, breathing process of inquiry hardens into a dead conclusion. The most dangerous words in any language are not, I do not know. The most dangerous words are, I already know. Because the person who says, I do not know, still has a door open. They can still learn, still grow, still be transformed. But the person who says, I already know, has sealed themselves inside a room with no windows, and they will defend that room with everything they have, because admitting they were wrong would mean admitting that the self they built on those certainties was never as solid as they believed. This is why some of the most gifted people you will ever meet are also the most stuck. Their brilliance gave them early answers, and those early answers gave them an identity, and that identity became a fortress they could not leave. Meanwhile, the person who was slower, who struggled more, who was forced to question and adapt and rebuild, that person developed something far more valuable than talent. They developed resilience, they developed flexibility, they developed the quiet courage to say, I was wrong, and that changes everything. So here is what I want to leave you with. Tonight, or whenever you find a quiet moment after watching this, ask yourself one honest question. What belief am I holding on to, not because it is true, but because letting it go would change who I think I am? Sit with that question. Do not rush to answer it. Let it work on you the way water works on stone, slowly, patiently, with a power that no force can match. Because the moment you find that belief, the moment you hold it up to the light and examine it with genuine courage, you will feel something extraordinary. You will feel the walls begin to thin. You will feel possibility rushing in through the cracks. And you will understand, perhaps for the first time, that you were never trapped by the world. You were trapped by a version of yourself that you had outgrown but were afraid to release. The cage was always open. You just had to stop believing it was who you are. If this message touched something real inside you, leave a comment telling me which idea hit you the hardest. Press the like button so this video can reach someone else who is silently carrying the same invisible weight. Subscribe to this channel because this is only the beginning of the journey, and there are revelations ahead that will change the way you see everything. And if you know someone, a friend, a family member, someone brilliant who seems stuck, share this with them. Sometimes the most powerful gift you can give another person is not advice. It is a mirror.